Welcome to the Fire and Earth podcast with your hosts, Jason Mefford and Kathy Gruber. Fire and Earth, giving you the keys to unlock your limitless potential.
Welcome to another episode of the Fire and Earth podcast. I'm your co-host, Jason Mefford.
And I am Kathy Gruber. And today,
be very quiet.
You do have a hat on for that.
And we're not hunting wabbits. I know, it's like I got like the Elmer Fudd hat on today.
Totally have the Elmer Fudd on. But we are going to talk about something sneaky. So I'm sitting here and I'm on camera with you, and you have no idea what's happening from sort of my torso down. Well, I'll tell you, Jason, I am getting a massage right now.
What?
Yeah.
How are you doing that? Oh my goodness. Did you put those stickers on there, or did it come with
it comes with stickers, so you can dress it up yourself. And it's a cute little kitty sticker and a cute little like googly eyes, and my battery's about to die. But okay. So I use my hands a lot. I'm a massage therapist. I do trapeze, I do aerial silks, and my hands are just like falling apart. So I feel like we're doing an infomercial. So I thought, why don't I start taking better care of myself? Because if I'm not going to do it, no one is. So I did a bunch of research and I investigated like the best hand massagers. And I found this company and I tried one and I thought, I don't like it. I sent it back. It is the greatest thing ever. So, So now either as I'm laying in bed to go to sleep, or while I'm watching TV, or while I'm on something like this where I don't need my left hand because I've got this one free, they switch off. Stick my hand in the thing for 15 minutes. It heats it up, it massages my fingers, it gets the swelling to go down. It is one of the best things that I decided to do for myself. And nobody needs to know I'm doing it. It's not time consuming. I don't have to take time out of what else I'm doing. Why can't we find more ways in our lives to do things like that, where we are executing self-care and not taking up time to do other things? We just have to get creative. So I wanted to talk about that today.
Well, no, I think that's great because, and again, I'm over here. It's a little cold where I'm at. It's cold where you're at because it's winter time. You can see we have our winter hats on even, and my hands are a little cold.
I know,
it's like, man, it would be nice to like have them like sticking in something and warming them up instead of me going, in the middle of the podcast, and then everybody knows exactly what I'm doing, right?
Right.
But this is kind of, it's kind of a carryover for one of the episodes that we had, not too long ago too, where we were kind of talking about, self-care, taking time for yourself, and the fact that I think a lot of times people don't take time for themselves because they think it takes an hour or 2 hours. Right. I think you talked about your client who spent like 4 hours a day doing self-care stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, like you said, if we can just start to get a little creative, right, we can actually do more than one thing at the same time. And yeah. I think that's one of the myths that's out there. And now, even for me as a guy, I prefer to be like, locked in on what I'm doing. But the reality is, and I'm not even talking about multitasking per se, because I think multitasking is not really what I'm meaning, but we can have our attention on more than one thing at the same time, or we can be doing something like having our hand massaged while we're talking.
Right. It's not taking up I don't have to concentrate on what this thing's doing. This runs on its own. It's not pulling away from the conversation that you and I are having. So are there things like that? And they sell these for your feet. They sell these for your knees. I'm not pushing this company, though I do have to say I really like this product. But it's like, what else can you do? There are, I have a client who rides their bike on their computer. They have a bike computer thing. So it's like a standing desk, but they have ones that are treadmills. They have ones that are little bikes. They have these little pedal things you can put under your desk so that you can move your legs while you're sitting. There are so many ways to incorporate and kind of sneak in self-care while you're doing something else. If I'm watching a movie at night, there's no reason I can't have my hand in this thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's these passive things, sure, I'm not doing anything. The machine is doing it to me, but there's no reason why we can't incorporate some of these passive things, these simple to use things. And I got to say, this thing was not expensive. It was like $65. This was not a $6,000 massage chair that I've had to install in my house. This is a quick way. So I had to identify what is my problem, what are my pain points, my poor little swollen hands, and how can I solve that problem? And I think that so much of it is we we just sort of throw up our one good hand. I don't want to hurt myself. We throw up our hands.
I know people watching this are going to be like, what is she doing? What's she got on her hand there?
Well, you've got to start it over and watch from the beginning. It's got googly eyes. It's so cute. I don't know why I'm so excited about stickers. I'm like a child. But it's like identify the problem and then solve the problem. Like, how do you solve that issue? So I think that's part of it, is we have to identify what can we do in the time we have.
Well, and I think it's interesting because maybe we can even talk, this is going to be a shorter episode, but maybe we can talk just quickly about some different ways that people can do that, right? I mean, because there's a lot of activities that you engage in that don't require your full cognitive attention. And so, something that I do is, things like you can listen to an audiobook while you're cooking dinner or while you're washing the dishes, right? And again, it's, sometimes people might say, well, but that means that I'm not being present with either activity and I'm kind of pulling, both away. Well, kind of, but you can kind of bounce back and forth between the things that you're doing, right? And you can by doing that and by practicing doing that, you can actually really be present in both places, because we can be in more than one place at the same time, right? And people listening are going to be like, no, I can't. Well, yes, you can, because right now you're probably thinking about something you have to do for work at the same time as you're listening to this, right? And, again, I mean, the better that you can get about actually being present for short periods of time and jumping back and forth, you can actually learn how to do this, right? Because, I think we'll give the example. I think I talked before about washing the dishes, right, as one of those self-care things that I do, and find it as an opportunity to be grateful that I have plates. And I mean, we have wonderful plates. I mean, they're cute plates. I love them.
Sure.
Because I had like these cheap Amazon basic things before, invested in some nicer plates.
There you go.
And now it's like, oh, holding them and feeling them, I feel great, doing it. I'm grateful for it. So I can sit there and place some attention on that of, oh, this plate is so beautiful, I love it. At the same time that I'm hearing, right, an audiobook in the back, and then I can jump back into the audiobook because I'm hearing it, right? And even if I'm not 100% actively focused on it, the information is still coming in, right?
I would say though, so what you're saying, I half agree with what you're saying. I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit. So
we're allowed to do that on this podcast.
We are. Okay, I switched hands, so I can do it now. So you didn't even know. You didn't even know. So many studies say, like, actually not to task switch like that. If it's a similar thing, I think if you're like cooking and you're listening to something that you don't need to remember, like if it's just an entertaining thing, I think that's okay. I think if it's something that you really need to absorb, then you need to be present with it. Because I feel like there are times I'm trying to concentrate on a recipe. And if I've got something else going, I'm like, you can't talk to me right now. Like I'm missing steps and I'm putting sugar where it should be salt. And, there are times where you really do have to focus. And there are times that splitting of attention is okay. But there's been so many studies that talk about how switching that attention is actually bad for your brain, because there's this time lag of getting back into the thing that you started doing. So doing the dishes doesn't take much brain power. So if you're listening to something and doing dishes, that's one thing. If you're trying to write a report and you're trying to listen to an audiobook and the TV's on, that's when it gets to be a little bit too much. So, kind of rank those activities of how much concentration do I need to have? I remember I was trying to record because I'm like the queen of multitasking. I actually can split my attention and do two things at once. People have told me this. I'm one of those rare people that can do that with typically not a lot of consequence, until I was recording a guided meditation for a client, and my phone lit up, and I glanced down at my phone to discover that I have now called the man on the recording the name of the person that just popped up on my phone, and it was his name. So halfway through Joe's recording, I call him Bill. Because my focus got I should not have had my phone on when I was doing that. That is not the time that I needed to know what my phone was telling me. So that was one of those examples where multitasking got me in trouble. But I have another way to do sneaky self-care. Let's go back to that. Every time I hear a bell, I stop and I take a deep breath. If I hear someone's phone chime, if I hear an elevator ding, if I hear somebody's car alarm make a certain kind of chirp, I signal that that's a time for me to take a pause, to take a deep breath, and just be present for that second, no matter what I'm doing.
Mhm.
So there are ways to cue that. If you're driving along and you see a stop sign, maybe that is the indication that you take a deep breath. If you get stopped at a red light, maybe that's your time, don't close your eyes, to do the inhale I am, exhale at peace. You don't have to. I would love it if I could meditate for a half hour every day. We're up to 8 minutes. Not bad. And I get to augment that every single time. I get a little bonus meditation. Every time I stop at that red light, I take my hands off the steering wheel. I look up at the light and I think I am at peace. I am squeezing in teeny little ways throughout my day to relax, to breathe, to calm down, to stop the fight or flight response. We all have time that we can do that. You can't plop on the pillow for a half hour. Great. You are sitting at a red light at some point today.
Well, and even, placing things around you, because like you said, you've used that red light as kind of an anchor or a trigger for you to do something. You can do the same things with lots of other things, having things around you that remind you of something. And so when you notice something again, you take that small 5, 10, 15-second pause,
Yep.
to do something. I do that with water, which is going to sound kind of weird, but I bless my water when I drink it. And so every time that I'm filling up my bottle, I take the couple of seconds to bless my water, feel gratitude for the water as well, right?
How very emoto of you.
Emoto. Well, there's yeah.
Emoto.
So if you don't know about Emoto, go look up the research that Dr. Emoto did on water, and you'll probably want to start blessing the water too when you see.
Yeah.
Don't yell or be mean at your water, because
No.
you don't want to see what the water crystals end up looking like. But it's little things like that, and like you said, I think that we can bring in some self-care, little things, stopping to breathe, for 15, 30 seconds, a minute. That's self-care, as well. And so whatever you can do to start thinking about these sneaky ways in order to build in more of the self-care. Because I'll tell you, doing 3 minutes of breathing throughout the day in 30-second chunks, 3 minutes is still a lot of self-care. It's way more self-care than most people give themselves. And when you start doing that and start building it in, you just start feeling completely different. I mean, again, with your hand massager, you feeling that, Kathy?
Oh, it's so nice and warm. It feels so good. And my rings fit better and my hands feel better. And I mean, it has truly made a difference. And sometimes I'll just do it at night. I'll just lay in bed and I'll just switch my hand. I think it's like a 15-minute cycle. You don't have to keep it in there for 15 minutes. I kept this one in for 5. I kept this one on for until the battery's going to die. I'll charge it all day, and then tonight I'll do it again. The other thing that 3 minutes of self-care is going to give you is more than no minutes of self-care. The alligator mouth goes to the big number. I do remember that from math. 3 is better than nothing. So if, people think it has to be this giant all or nothing thing, do 3 minutes, do 5 minutes. Eventually it'll build up, and don't beat yourself up for, oh, I only did 3 minutes today. 3 minutes is better than nothing. And if it allows you to feel better, then you did your job. If it allows you to be more productive, to be more present to yourself, to your family, to your kids, to your colleagues, it's a win. So sneak it in. Nobody needs to know that you're doing self-care.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. I like it. All right. We're going to let this run out. I am Kathy Groover. I can be reached at kathygruver.com.
And I'm Jason Mefford. I can be reached at jasonmefford.com. So go out, incorporate some self-care this week, and we'll see you next week on another episode of the Fire and Earth podcast. See ya.